Yeah.
And Lisa is here. She's just.
Her dad's not here.
How y'all doing? See you. Okay. How are you, Catherine?
Good morning.
You
Good.
doing all right?
Yep, I'm working on 2 more CNU people since he's busy.
Yeah.
He got 9 so far.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Oh,
Who else
yeah.
going?
2 county commissioners,
Uh-huh.
our ACA in charge of development,
Uh-huh.
David Engel,
Great.
our central permitting guys, 3 planning commissioners, Chuck Ray, Jamie Girardi, and Derek Pons.
That there?
But no one from any cities, yeah.
I need to cancel all my plans and join that All Star cast.
Thank you for looking at
It would be good for Dade City.
Oh, yeah.
over there.
Real good. You doing okay? Good.
Still have no water. I'm like,
Well, you know, I told them, I said, so they came out like, it was like 6 days ago and they couldn't get there. And I'm like, nobody reached out to try to reschedule?
well, yeah, because we're not occupying the property, and so it's like,
No, so
you
they-
know, like we didn't even.
Yeah, so that was kind of on them, I think.
Yeah.
Is Justin here?
Give my daddy a hug.
Oh. My grandbaby's having heart surgery.
Yeah.
No, at the end of the month, the 25th.
Oh my gosh, what's the baby's name?
Emma Grace. Well, it's more than that. Emmeline Grace Nicole. Both of them.
I'm gonna be. She will be on my prayer list.
Close enough. It's a very common surgery, so they're doing it at the best hospital in the United States. They're in Columbia, New York.
I was mistaken. I thought we were doing. I go, yeah. No, she wants you to pick it.
No, that was game for any of those. That's okay. You'll learn so much. And if it,
We're all good to go? Yeah. All righty. There, they done. See you.
yeah. Yeah, and they give us the mics.
We'll call this meeting to order of the MPO. Good to have everyone with us today. We do ask that you silence your cell phones, your electronic devices, and just let everyone know our meeting today is being broadcast, and following today's meeting, it will be available on the county's website. This time, let's please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gracious God, we invite you into our discussions today. Unite our hearts and guide our conversations with wisdom and patience. Help us to seek solutions that honor you and benefit everyone involved. In your name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. At this time, we'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Councilman Lance Smith. Councilman Matt Murphy.
Here.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Here.
Commissioner Seth Wayton. Commissioner Catherine Starkey.
Here?
Commissioner Lisa Yeager.
Here.
Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Here.
Chairman Scott Black.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This time we have a period of time set aside for public comment. If anyone would like to speak at this time, we do ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, but this is certainly your time. Has anyone signed up to speak at this point? Okay, hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the MPO at this time? Seeing none, we will close the public comment and we'll move into our next item of business, which is the approval of the minutes.
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as distributed. No additions or corrections to be made? Yes.
I put it there that the minutes had not been received yet for the last board meeting. We don't actually have a minute to approve.
Well, we'll hold that motion until the next meeting. Thank you.
Save it, we'll save it.
We'll bring that one back later. At this time, we'll have our MPO Advisory Committee reports, our Citizens Advisory Committee. Mr. Ryan, Tom Ryan, welcome. If you could give us the Citizens Advisory Committee report, please, sir.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. I'll make it quick. The Citizen Advisory Committee met on March 4th, and during our meeting, we approved the previous meeting's minutes. That was a meeting held on February 4th. We heard a report what occurred at the February 12th MPO board meeting. 4 action items were voted on. New at-large member, Dr. Terry Nelson, was approved. The Unified Planning Work Program was approved. The FDOT Joint Certification Report was reviewed and approved. The fiscal year 26 Community Transportation Coordinator designation was approved. We had 2 presentations, the Advantage 19 Phase 1 presentation from Ford Pinellas. The Freight Plan Phase 2 presentation was also heard. That's the report. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any questions for Tom regarding the Citizens Advisory Committee report? Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Appreciate it. Technical Advisory Committee, Cynthia Spidell, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, other than our usual business, we had met as well on March 4th, but you're about to get a presentation from Benesh on the truck route freight corridor plan. And we took a hard look at that. Our overall findings were that we thought it was a little sparse because it really just kind of showed the major arterial highways and Ridge Road. So we suggested that the long-range transportation plan and the vision roads be overlaid on it to continue to find additional opportunities for freight and truck. And in particular, the city of Zephyr Hills asked to have the 4-laning from Chansey and 54 over to 98 be added. So, and they sent that information directly to Benesh and the MPO. And we also talked about potentially having it reviewed 1 year in advance of the LRTP update, as a general rule of thumb. And with that, we didn't really have anything to note other than our standard course of business, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Cynthia. Any questions for Ms. Spidell? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Ms. Avila.
Good morning, Angel Avila, Pasco MPO staff. The Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee met on March 4th, and they did have a quorum. The committee voted to approve the UPWB obligation amendment, the FDOT Joint Certification Review Report, and the fiscal year 26 CTC designation. The committee also reviewed an overview of the committee also received an overview of Phase 1 of the Advantage 19 project and a presentation on Phase 2 of the Pasco MPO freight plan. And this concludes my BPAC update. Do you have any questions?
Very much. Any questions for Angel? Thank you, Ms. Avila.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Action items. We have 5 action items today. The first is approval of the new regular member of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Mr. Hoffman.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sean Hoffman from the Pasco MPO. At our last Citizen Advisory Committee, we approved a new at-large board member, Dr. Terry Nelson. He comes to us with decades of civil service experience and a PhD. Our recommendation is that the MPO board move to approve the new at-large member, Dr. Terry Nelson.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion. Have a second. Any discussion on this nominee? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Next item, item 3, Unified Planning Work Program. This is a deobligation amendment fiscal year 2025-2026.
Good morning, everybody. Lori Shadiger, Pasco MPO. My biennial review recommends deobligating $800,000 in fiscal year 26 PL funds, lowering the contract from 3.4 to 2.6 million. These funds will be reallocated within the fiscal year 27 PL budget, effective October 2026, to support active transportation, sub-area, and 88 plans. We are looking for an approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this item?
One question.
Commissioner Mariano.
What was the reason for the de-obligation as far as, why was it spent 800,000 less?
We just couldn't get enough, work done in the time frame. Too little hands, not enough people, too much work.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions, comments? What's the pleasure of the board? Do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
We have a motion, we have a second. Very good.
Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Thank you, Laurie. Item 4, the Community Transportation Coordinator, CTC designation, fiscal year 26. Ms. Gorman.
Good morning, Board. This morning, I will be presenting the Community Transportation Coordinator designation for fiscal '26. Under the Florida Transportation Disadvantage Program, the MPO is responsible for designating a Community Transportation Coordinator who administrates and coordinates transportation services for individuals who may have limited mobility options. These services support residents such as the elderly, seniors, individuals with disabilities, low-income individuals, and other transportation disadvantaged populations. The Community Transportation Coordinators works with local agency and service providers to ensure that the transportation services are received and they're effective and efficient. The designation is required every 5 years to come before the Pasco MPO, the BOCC, and the TDLCB for renewal. So the next time you will hear this, it'll be May 30th of 2031. So at this time, we are asking for recommended approval for fiscal '26 for Go Pasco to continue to be the Community Transportation Coordinator.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Gorman. Any questions or comments at this time?
Move to approve?
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Under item 5, Advantage 19, Phase 1, Ms. Gorman.
All right, so I'm going to introduce our presenters today for the Advantage 19 Phase 1. We met with many of you this week to kind of review the plan. This initiative focuses on advancing planning efforts along the State Road 19 corridor and surrounding transportation network. The purpose of the Advantage 19 is to evaluate opportunities to improve mobility, connectivity, and economic development along the corridor while addressing future transportation needs. Phase 1 of this effort focuses on the following: identifying transportation needs along the corridor, evaluating potential transportation improvements, coordinating with regional and local partners, and supporting future project development. This planning effort will guide long-term transportation improvements along the corridor and identify regional connectivity. So at this time, I will welcome up the Ford Pinellas team as they present on Advantage 19, Phase 1.
Welcome. If you could both state your name and your titles for the record.
Yes, good morning. I'm Kyle Simpson from Ford Pinellas, a planner with the agency.
Welcome.
And good morning. My name is Nicole Galasso, and I'm a principal planner with Forward Pinellas.
Thank you. Welcome.
See if this works. So yeah, we're here to talk to you about the Advantage US 19. So the purpose of the study was to build upon previous work done by TBARTA, who was the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority. They were looking at corridors throughout the Tampa Bay region back in the kind of late 2010s and then the early 2020s. And one of the corridors was US 19 from State Road 52 in Pasco County down to the gateway area of St. Petersburg and Pinellas County. So we kind of are furthering that work with a bunch of stakeholders in Pasco County. That's included the county planning department, Go Pasco, the Pasco MPO, City of Newport Richey, among others. This is phase 1 of the study. So this phase looks more at the land use around potential station locations and how that land use could support a transit service in the future. Phase 2 would look at what that transit service exactly would be, how it would operate, what it would cost to operate, potential funding options, things like that. So in the plan, we looked at the existing conditions of the corridor, identifying where those stations should go based on previous work done, and then looking at current market conditions. Created a TOD framework, so transit-oriented development. The goal is basically create areas that would support the transit service, and then figuring out how we would implement that vision. So the report itself is broken out into those 4 chapters, and then Nicole is going to talk about how we went through the station selection. Or no, I am, sorry. She will get there next. So with an express bus service, you really want 3 to 5 miles between a station. That is to keep the travel time competitive with what it would be if someone were to drive themselves. So if you get a station every, say, like half or 1 mile apart, the bus stops too often. We're really looking for those regional trips with this service, and it would complement existing local service. So the intent is not to replace anything that exists today. This would support people trying to get from their home to jobs. And so in the previous study that TBARTA did, they had identified 15 potential sites. We wanted to bring that down to between 7 and 12 to achieve that desired station spacing. And so that was the kind of basis for this and why we looked at which stations would have the best potential from a land use and economic development standpoint to support that transit service. Some of the criteria we looked at were soft sites. Think of that as like a retail that's kind of past its prime. The land use of the site might be worth more than the building that's on it today. The regulatory framework within the county or city that it's located in, does the existing zoning or future land use support kind of more intense use of that land? What are the existing sidewalk and bike networks around the station, and what local transit service exists today? The community characteristics, this could be things like local colleges, libraries, parks, things like that. And then transit demand, so we looked at the existing ridership and demand for PSTA in Pinellas County, and then Go Pasco in Pasco County. So from that, we identified 12 station locations. So the ones in Pasco County are around the State Road 52 intersection, Fox Hollow Drive, Main Street, and Newport Richey, and then Moog Road.
Can I stop for a second, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mariano.
So
Yeah.
tell me about the 52. You go from 52 all the way down to Fox Hollow. Where are
Yes.
you actually looking? Are you looking at the Fox Hollow where we're gonna possibly do something there, or?
Yeah, so we worked, there's a lot of discussion with Go Pasco on those exact station locations, and we wanted to pair where Go Pasco had plans for future improvements, and I believe, is it Fox Hollow where there's the park and ride planned?
Yes, the
Is that the right place for it, though?
Transit.
the transit station, transfer station.
It's so close to 52, 2 miles. Is that a good place?
It's close to 52. Can you explain the?
Is that what you're thinking, Jack?
Well,
They're so close to each other.
even still, like, even the first line, it says from 52 to Fox Hollow, so they haven't even picked where they're gonna be yet. And then,
Sorry, so those station areas were at the intersection of US 19 and State Road 52, and then at the intersection of Fox Hollow and 19. So that was
That's the segment.
okay, so just a quick thing, as far as that segment goes, are you looking to go into the mall that's there, or the land to the south?
So we identified that intersection right now, and so I know Cole will get into. We're looking at a station on each side of the road, and so 19 is kind of don't want to call it's a big road, and so we kind of envision two separate developments, if you will, on each
Right.
side.
That's good for the tax base.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but keep this in mind,
Yes.
one of the things that we had problem with why we're moving from the Gulfview Mall to here is the mall decided they didn't want it. So I don't know if we have discussions with the mall that's over there. Now, the land down below, I think with Lacuccio's part of it, and if we work a program with them, we may end up getting that land soon, which means we'd have the land for free, and then you could look at doing something there as well, especially commercial.
Right. Yeah, so this plan is pretty high level in terms of setting up a framework of what our county and local governments could look to. We're not, like, the MPOs won't be the ones who implement this. We're developing it as a service and a resource to our local partners that would then need to implement it through their zoning and economic development strategies.
Okay. Is now a good time to bring up about additional stop potential, or should we wait till the end?
The more stops you add, then it's not an express.
Well, I get that, but I guess that conversation I had early in the week with, about Port Richey, you guys, our waterfront is right there, developing. We've got a 104-unit townhome development gonna be right there on 19. Our waterfront's developing. That project alone is gonna expand to about a $150 million project with mixed-use commercial, residential, and there's other properties obviously for sale. And I think once that happens, that area's gonna start to develop very, very rapidly. I think it's short-sighted that we don't have a stop there at the waterfront, especially with all the development's gonna be happening, so.
Good morning, Nina Elkin, Pasco Director. So to your point, yes, we will have a bus stop there. We actually do, and we will realign some of our bus stops to serve that purpose. This is a project more for an express route, so they will have fewer bus stops. They will not be utilizing our regular bus stops. In regards of the transfer station for Fox Hollow, that's a transfer station that is going to have the capacity to have 5 buses to meet, 5 to 6 buses that will meet. But those are the local routes. We're talking about express route that will be about 50 minutes headways, right? I believe
that's
about that, but yes.
So a person that wanted to live there and work in St. Pete, they could just get on the other bus and get to one of these stops.
The rapid,
And then
yes.
get on the rapid bus.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. That's all.
Thank you.
This is like a commuter bus.
Yeah. Okay. So this is when I turn it over to Nicole.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, good morning again. Again, my name is Nicole Galasso, Principal Planner with Forward Pinellas. So I am going to attempt to distill the 200-page report that you have in your packet into just a few slides. And please feel free to stop me and ask questions. I love how conversational the presentation already is. So the overarching purpose of phase 1 of this study, like Kyle said, is to really identify opportunities where we can more effectively integrate new development with an enhanced transit service and create that symbiotic relationship between the two. So for phase 1, we set some visioning goals, which was to 1, establish a transit supportive land use and design framework that, again, each of the local governments along the corridor could take up and pick and choose what makes sense for them and eventually implement as market and physical trends on the ground evolve. Assess the development capacity on select soft sites in each of the station typologies based on a market analysis. That way we could ensure that our recommendations were grounded in market realities and would be feasible from at least a market perspective. Provide high-level transit supportive recommendations for land use and zoning with a context-sensitive approach. And then visualize at a high level, again, what that could look like if any of those recommendations were implemented in the future. And so, like any good TOD plan, we started by taking a look at high-level mobility and high-level land use recommendations. So on the mobility front, the goal, of course, is to provide everyone who lives, works, or visits places along the US 19 corridor with more convenient and accessible options for getting around. And there's a real focus on connectivity, both within the station area locations, as well as between them and to the neighborhoods and activity hubs that surround those intersections. And so how are we going to do that? Each of the local governments or the 2 MPOs will look at expanding choices and enhancing connectivity through different mobility capital improvements over time. And some of those might include new streets and mid-block crossings. And the purpose of that is to create a human scale route between various locations. Looking at additional sidewalks and bike lanes and micro mobility options to create those first and last mile connections. As mentioned, this is an express service, so it can only stop in so many locations, but how can we get people to those locations quickly and safely? And also intersection improvements. Obviously, anyone who has driven or walked or rode a bike down US 19 knows that it is a huge barrier for actually crossing over US 19. So how can we reduce turn conflicts and promote visibility for all who are using the roadway? And then finally, traffic calming measures and streetscaping and beautification in areas where it makes sense, just to create a more safer and comfortable public realm. And so then, those are, the high-level set of recommendations. We also dove into each of the selected station areas, which is a quarter mile around the intersection. So we have an example up here from Main Street in US 19, and we identified some specific mobility improvements that the city of Newport Richey, Pasco County, and the Pasco MPO can consider over time. Again, the real focus here was how can we get people to safely cross US 19 and also connect the stations to the existing neighborhoods and activity hubs, Sims Park, downtown Newport Richey, to draw activity to that area. And you'll see here on the map we have some the red lines that you see. Those are potentially new streets as sites redevelop. There's an opportunity to work a development agreement out to create more of that street grid and more accessible and convenient routes. You'll see a dashed green line. That's a potential new multi-use path or trail that can connect to the existing trails in the area and parks. And then, of course, intersection safety at Main Street and US 19, as well as Main Street and River Road, the gateway to downtown Newport Richey.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Mariano.
so as you mentioned Port Richey, at US 19, where the Cody River comes under, we've got an underpass that we're working on getting that funded. As far as like connecting, as far as like coming across 19, it's probably nothing safer than going under, and probably less expensive than any overpass you'd ever build. Is that anything that you guys have looked at yet or made recommendations to?
So we have had a conversation about how can we get pedestrians to safely cross US 19. I know a pedestrian bridge, the more overpass option, was thrown out there. I personally haven't heard of the underpass option. That's intriguing. But those are the types of improvements that would be worked out, with Pasco, City of Newport Richey, and the Pasco MPO to explore the opportunities of how that could be funded, and what type of coordination would be needed to make that happen.
I will tell you, it's a little disturbing knowing that you don't even know about that program. It's on
Jack,
our
that's
MPO
not
list.
at that's not at this stop. This is at Main
No,
Street.
but if they're talking about crossways, et cetera, this is something maybe they should be adjusting with.
Well, not for the BRT. Yeah, although you can get to the side of the street that if we may have a trail on the side of US 19, that's where people can get under 19 and come down to the Main Street stop. But you can't have a stop. This is a commuter bus, not a regular service bus, so you can't have a lot of stops. It defeats the purpose.
So, I guess I'm struggling here. Obviously, Port Richey growing. There's going to be jobs there. It's a focal point of West Pasco.
It's either Main Street or Port Richey.
Well, I think you need both, actually, to be
No,
honest with you.
no, you can't do that for a commuter. It's,
Headways will slow down, and I'm not the
Yeah.
expert, but I mean, it would slow the line down.
it wouldn't, it'd be just a regular bus that we already have. There's already a bus that will do that. It's just not the bus that goes rapid to downtown St.
Right, but people want to come to the waterfront, obviously. That
They
would be.
get on the other bus.
Yeah,
You
the
get on the
regular
other
bus
bus.
for that.
You gotta go to a city and experience, when you pick a train that's going from one place to another, you can take the A train, which gets you there in 1 hour, or you can take the B train that gets you there in a half hour. And if you're trying to get here, you're gonna take the B train because it's less stops.
Understood.
Yeah, so it's
So-
not that there isn't a stop, it's just, there's different options.
She got it.
And DOT's putting mid-block crossings in the county part of 19. There's another one going up, I think in Port Richey. There's another one going up by me in Gulf Harbors right now.
And I know as US 19 continues to see improvements over time, the design of those improvements will consider and take into account the fact that there's also a plan for express bus service, and it'll be designed to accommodate that as well as potentially future improvements. One of the approaches we take as planners is incrementalism. So you have to start somewhere, and you hope that you can generate success around beyond that, initial plan. And over time, if it is such a huge success, there could potentially be opportunities to add stops or enhance infrastructure. But, just as this being phase one, this is, kind of the starting point, and hopefully it's a success and it evolves over time.
We went through this in T-BARTA, working on the BRT on 75.
So now to get into the land use recommendations, which is really the purpose of phase one, was to look at those transit-oriented development opportunities. So the goal for that is to facilitate redevelopment that would support transit service and other mobility options while still remaining flexible and responsive to the context of each community. So we're really looking at redevelopment that focuses on new housing, employment, recreational, entertainment opportunities, all to spur economic development for each of the 8 local governments along the corridor, as well as site design, so at a property level, that will promote internal circulation as well as external connectivity to the other developments and neighborhoods surrounding the intersection. And of course, looking for opportunities to incorporate multimodal facilities. And just like with mobility, we zoomed in to each of the station areas and, set this high-level land use vision for how redevelopment could unfold. So again, sticking with the intersection of US 19 and Main Street, the real goal there is to enhance those connections to the community amenities in that area. We're looking at, mixed-use development where appropriate, with ground floor retail, housing, or even, kind of professional offices on the second or third stories, and enhancing green spaces and complementing those green spaces and parks that already exist in the area. Another big part of the land use framework is acknowledging all of the planning efforts that have already been done in the area. The city of Newport Richey has done some wonderful work in redeveloping their downtown. So this plan isn't to overhaul what the local governments already have in place. It's to complement it and identify opportunities to just take it that, one next step to really focus on the transit supportive element and that potential that comes along with it. To, again, make sure we ground all of these recommendations in reality, we conducted a market analysis. We looked at the 5 submarkets you see there on the map, and we looked at supply and demand in the regional real estate and labor markets, as well as looked at a 30-year historical growth pattern for each of those 5 submarkets across multifamily residential, hotel, retail, and office. And what we found is that the types of development that show the greatest growth over that 15-year period into the future will be multifamily and office, probably unsurprisingly, because as we know, we have people moving to the Tampa Bay area all the time. So there will continue to be a strong demand for residential and multifamily apartments. And then, Pinellas and Pasco both have less office space than their counterpart in Hillsborough. So there could potentially be demand for more office space in Pasco and Pinellas counties as well. And then we also took a look at, okay, well, if we want to try to attract new office and employment uses, what industries are showing the fastest growth? And those are predominantly office using, finance and insurance, professional services, and healthcare, which doesn't always mean hospitals. It could be, those smaller professional offices or even administrative offices.
Just Commissioner Mariano has.
Oh, sure, I
Go back to
apologize.
your previous slide, I think you got your
Streets
sites.
mixed up, yeah.
Yeah, you should have State Road 52, should be Fox Hollow, then Main Street down below.
Fox Hollow and Main needs.
Oh, yes, the labels are switched. It's so funny you stare at a slide for so long and you don't catch things like that. So thank you. We'll be sure to make that change. The conclusion really of the market study was that development that focuses on residential and employment uses and complementary neighborhood serving and employment serving retail uses is going to most likely attract interest from the private development community, especially, you know, in the southern segments of US 19 and around the intersection of Main Street in US 19, just because there's already so much growth that, you know, this could piggyback off of. And so then we get into the actual recommendations that the local governments can take up to incentivize or facilitate redevelopment. So again, we're looking at 11 stations along a 35-mile corridor, and there's 8 different jurisdictions along it. So we develop station typologies to recognize a context-sensitive approach to redevelopment. And the purpose of that is, you know, we can't look at every individual zoning code and future land use plan, but what we can do is create a toolkit and allow the planning staff at each of those local governments to pick those up and decide what makes sense for my community. You know, what makes sense in the gateway area of St. Pete may not make sense at Fox Hollow Drive. So that's why, you know, we kind of created a framework where you can step down. So we will be focusing on the regional center and neighborhood center because that's where the Pasco station areas are. There's also a third typology, which is the highest in intensity and density, and you can see some of those numbers there. So let's get into the regional center. So what I'm going to present to you, you'll see a visualization, and it's actually for East Bay Drive in US 19 in Largo, but State Road 52 is within this typology. So think about how can some of these recommendations carry forward and make sense for State Road 52. The focus here is on both vertical and horizontal mix of uses, providing open space and community gathering opportunities, and to really spur economic opportunity in looking at those large scale parcels where you can really get a developer in to create, you know, a new kind of master planned sort of development that includes all of those amenities. So for each of these kind of visioning exercises, we did a plan view, which is what you're looking at, like as if you're looking down from the sky. And some of the land uses you'll see called out are office. You'll see kind of this greenway central plaza where you would have, you know, vehicles, people biking and walking. You'll also see some residential opportunities as well as office. And of course, still retail, because anyone who drives down US 19 knows it's a commercial corridor, and we're certainly not saying that big box stores should go away, just that maybe we could look at how can we design them or incentivize developers to design them to where they complement a more walkable, comfortable, and active pedestrian realm. So after we did that plan view, we then extruded it in 3D so you can really start to see the scale of what redevelopment could look like under those recommended densities and intensities. And what you see here is, 6 to 8 stories. It's a little over a 2.0 FAR, and the density ranges between 50 and 60 units per acre. I'm happy to report that when we spoke with Pasco County, we know Pasco is doing its comprehensive plan update, that the recommendations that were put forward for this station typology were aligned with some of those updates. So we were really happy to hear that.
Not everyone on this panel, thank you, is going to know what a FAR is, so could you explain that to some?
Yeah, absolutely. Apologize for my plannery terms. So FAR is floor area ratio. It's basically the ratio between the building area and the total site area. So just really simply, if you have, a 1 acre piece of land and then you have a building on top of it that's 43,560 square feet, which is equal to an acre, that would equal a 1.0 FAR. If you had, let's say, a 10,000 square foot lot and 20,000 square feet of building on top of it, that's a 2.0 FAR. So while this is a 2.18 FAR, it's 6 to 8 stories, and that's because this is such a large site. So the larger sites you have, the more you can spread out building area, and it's not like you're getting a really tall, skinny building on a tiny little parcel. You know, we're looking at larger scale redevelopment opportunities around the intersection of US 19. And then we took that kind of Massey model and did this wonderful, you know, kind of realistic visualization, and you can really start to see how, you know, that current corner of US 19 could be activated and injected with activity and life, as well as, you know, increasing the tax base. And I will come back to this for Main Street, but just so you have an idea of what you're looking at, we took the findings of the market analysis and compared the test fit build out to make sure that it's appropriate for what we can expect of demand in that submarket. And so you'll see the orange bar is the test fit, and then the blue box is how much development is expected or how much demand is expected over the 15-year period. And so the conclusion there is really the test fit or that build out is far under what the submarket can capture, which means that there's still room to spread it around, and it's appropriate and from a market perspective and feasible. And so now we'll get into the neighborhood center typology. So these are mostly residential areas with some commercial along US 19. And the vision is to continue to enhance green spaces, provide housing opportunities, and neighborhood serving retail and entertainment options. And also look at infill development and redevelopment that will just offer more choices and really foster a sense of place as you're, you know, getting off of the bus at these intersections. So you'll notice here that the recommended density and intensity and height is slightly less than the regional center, and again, that's because of that context-sensitive approach. So for the neighborhood center, we looked at Main Street in US 19. Here you're looking at that plan view, and some of the key things to call out are making those connections, you know, having a mix of uses and community gathering spaces, and also looking at opportunities to connect into some of the recent redevelopment, such as Kaiser University, the new city parking garage, as well as downtown Newport Richey. And so now taking a look at that 3D massing model, you'll see that it includes mostly residential, which is the yellow part of the building, ground floor retail, as well as lots of you know, community gathering areas and green spaces. I do want to also call your attention to kind of the bubble in the middle that says Public Plaza, and there's some green space there. When we spoke with the city of Newport Richey, we heard about plans to look at stormwater mitigation in the area. So I just want to mention that although this image is showing a more park, you know, that might also end up being a stormwater retention pond with a walking path or some kind of recreational amenity around it. So don't take these visuals as gospel. You know, this is more of just a vision, and there's an opportunity to look at those other future capital improvement plans and integrate them into this and work out kind of development agreements with developers and see if they'll even help kind of advance those goals. And so then again, we took that Massey model and created a more photorealistic version of it. And I just have to say, you know, I grew up on holiday in Newport Richey, Gulf High School alum, and this would have been amazing when I was living here and a teenager here. So it's really exciting to see what the potential is. And that, again, it is definitely feasible and appropriate from a market perspective. So for the kind of new Port Richey submarket, we see that there could be demand of up to 2 million square feet of new retail in the next 15 years. And that test fit you saw provides just 56,000 square feet of it. So you really could even, go up a little higher, but we wanted to take that more conservative approach and see how the market unfolds.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Commissioner Mariani.
Commissioner.
So I'm glad you touched on the height part, because we
Sure.
had Darrell Leclerc from Carolyn Parkway up to see the commission probably 15 years ago. And one thing he said was, along US 19, you've got a great asset. And we said, what is it? He goes, US 19. Because you're so close to the Gulf of Mexico. Once you get up to that fourth, fifth story, you can start seeing sunsets.
Yeah.
He said to go up higher.
Yeah.
And we took away the height restrictions in the county along that corridor, just especially to get more vertical. So what would you say we would need to do? I think these fires need to change to be able to elevate more, wouldn't they?
So the recommended range is a 0.5 to 2.5. I think if that was the ultimate goal, you would want to be on the higher end of that range. We had a comment at the technical advisory committee that mentioned that once you start doing site improvements for stormwater and parking areas, your actual building area gets constrained, right? You're starting with, say, 1 acre. By the time you do stormwater and, driveway access and parking lots, well, now you're maybe only working with 50% of that, which means that you would need taller buildings and a higher FAR to achieve that type of development. We wanted to really honor what's, in place today, or what the city of Newport Richey is looking towards in some of their updates. So the rendering you see here is at a 1.33, and it ranges between 3 and 6 stories. So if you got up to that 6 stories, those sunset views would be unlocked. And it is possible, because this is, in the actual site and the actual amount of building area and FAR that you see here in this build out. So,
So in State Road 52, the Gulf is like right there.
yeah.
So that site, so if that mall is gonna redevelop up there,
Yeah.
that height is gonna be dramatic. And as he says, once you hit the fourth, fifth story, the views are much better, the value is much better. What are the ratios you have down in Pinellas compared to what we have on the FARs?
So what, for State Road 52, that's actually up to a 4.0 FAR. Let me go back to that. So that's actually a 4.0 up to 8 stories. That's aligned with what we have at that Largo station today. There are some areas of US 19, especially in Clearwater, that could go up to 12 stories today. Those regulations are in place. 12 stories, 150 units per acre, and a 5.0 FAR, and that's kind of around the Drew Street, Gulf to Bay area of Clearwater, as well as the Gateway Carillon area in St. Pete. So those regulations are already in place today. Some of the others, they still have room to grow and maybe up zone over time. Or, one thing we like to recommend is work out a development agreement where you might be flexible on giving a little more height, giving a little more FAR to a developer in exchange for public benefits, community amenities, enhanced stormwater infrastructure. So that's something that's, detailed more in the plan of how the local governments could work that out as redevelopment opportunities come up. A developer maybe approaches the city or the county. Those are things to have in mind of, would we be okay with, setting a higher limit or offering a bonus height, or bonus FAR, bonus density. So in exchange, you're giving value to the developer then, right? You're saying you can build more units or you can build more building area. That's going to make them money. What can you get in return in terms of community amenities and different infrastructure to support the other goals for the area?
So if I'm gonna put those bonuses in place, why wouldn't I just put them in the plan up front? Because time is money, and if someone's gonna look at something to develop, they're gonna say, well, I can do this, I can go to the height, and it's more expensive the higher you go, but the value's there too, so it takes a special guy to wanna go up there. Why would you recommend us to put that in ahead of time, if we're gonna look at a long-term plan?
So it is actually recommended in this plan to do that, and Pasco County is in a great position right now of working through its Pasco 2050 comprehensive plan update. And I believe they're already, looking at that and identifying those opportunities to offer enhanced development incentives. But I would suggest definitely bringing that up as the comprehensive plan, update continues, and ensuring that that's included in that future land use plan as well as any future zoning updates.
I think you need to come work with us.
Well, I love Forward Pinellas, but I also love West Pasco. So this has been a really exciting plan for me to work on. So just to, let's see, I went way far back. So just to kind of summarize that market analysis that we were talking about, the point of looking at all of that was to show that the redevelopment test fits are appropriate, they're feasible from a market perspective. The number of residential units and the square footage that you saw there make up only a small portion of what the corridor could actually handle. So if you wanted to go for more, you could, but again, taking that more incremental approach and leaving those opportunities for future growth over time as the transit service takes off and redevelopment occurs. And then just to kind of put a fine point on it, we looked at the tax value of what exists today in each of those intersections that I presented, East Bay and Main Street, as well as the Drew Street one. And we saw what is the current tax revenue from the development in that on those properties today. And then we created a projection of what could it be if they redeveloped at the scale that was envisioned in this study. And we found that the local governments have nearly 4 million more tax dollars, tax revenues to gain if this type of redevelopment were to occur. And why do we care about that? Well, that's because that's how we're funded as local governments, is through tax revenues. So, we just wanted to really make that point that this isn't just to create value for developers or, even residents or business owners. It's also to create value for local governments so that we can take on public improvements and continue to enhance the corridor over time. So just to sum it all up, the US 19 corridor does show strong demand for additional commercial and residential development, and there's an opportunity to guide that growth that's expected between our two counties to the areas that are going to be well served by multimodal transportation, enhanced or express transit service, as well as housing, jobs, and entertainment and recreational options. The local governments have put a lot of work into kind of laying the groundwork for some of this. And so we just really want to piggyback on those efforts and identify those opportunities to take it up to that next level. And additional changes can be made over time as the transit service develops, as investment comes to the corridor to support ridership and accommodate, future market demand. So now I will hand it back to Kyle to finish us off, and then we're happy to take any additional questions.
Thank you. All right, so just to wrap up, so today we're here seeking your kind of approval of this plan. On our end of the house, we're going to our advisory committees this month, and then going to our board next month for kind of adoption and the authorization to start phase 2. So phase 2 again would look at, now that we know where the stations would be in phase, kind of the first implementation of this, how should we serve it with transit and what that looks like? What are the headways? What are the runs? Things like that. And we anticipate that to start in July if authorized. And then just to highlight the phase 2 kind of included scope would be looking at a service plan so we work closely with Go Pasco and PSTA and making sure that we have that tie-in with the existing local service. So both east-west and north-south. Again, we don't anticipate any underlying local service on 19 itself going away. It would only feed in and complement this regional service. We develop a capital and operating cost for what's proposed, and then how to implement it. And then we'd be back here in about a year. with that, we're happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Kyle. Questions for Kyle and Nicole? Mayor Murphy?
Just more of a comment. I'm very happy that Dave Gannon, our Economic Development Director, is here from the city, so he can see this firsthand and be part of this, so that it helps. I'm thinking maybe he needs to come more often now. Saves-
I wish David Engel was here.
So, no, I appreciate him being here, but, yeah, I really like it. There's a
Should've
lot of good stuff
told
there,
him.
and like you said, you
Suggested
know,
he be
it's gonna be tweaked to kind of fit, what we need in the area, but no, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I love it, and I want to make the motion to approve. We certainly have underutilized US 19. It needs a whole redo. And we've set aside money for enhancement, and what's the word? We have money set aside to help some of this grow for 19. So first one's in gets a stab at the kitty, but I move approval.
I'll second with a little more discussion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Commissioner Mariani?
I'd like to say that, you know, we used to have a transportation concurrency plan that was on 19. We taxed the people coming in. I think it's much better to give them the development strength to come in.
Oh,
Now, recently, we had done one, we did an approval up in Little Road in Denton, and we come in and gave them extra density so they could build something a little bit stronger, a little bit better. And I met with them yesterday, they actually come in and wanted $140,000 a unit, and they wanted to be tax-free. It's like, not the right approach. This is gonna create wealth, gonna create tax base, get the better demographics, so that when you get a mall like a Gulfview, or even beside it, you got people that can spend money, get better restaurants, get better quality of life for everybody. So I'm delighted that you guys have looked at that and brought those things forward.
you know, under discussion.
Go right ahead.
This is kind of how Brightline got the funds to do what they're doing. It's really a real estate company. So I've been to the Brightline station in downtown Miami. It's a, you know, vertical mixed use, great success in downtown Miami. And I haven't seen all the other stops. Well, I've seen the one in West Palm. My son's got 2 projects right by there. It's really been transformational along the Brightline corridor. So I expect and hope the same thing for us.
Very good. I was in on a trip a good number of years ago with the MPO when the light rail was first coming to Charlotte. That's when I first heard about the transit-oriented development. Now, what a neat thing, you know, each of these stops that were being created along the way, making the centers retail and residential, and just bringing it all together where the ridership would be right there. And I just think it's so great that that same type of plan can be adapted for the express bus service, and that we can do this kind of thing right here in Pasco County. So neat planning. I enjoy this. I enjoy sitting back and listening to this type of thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had a presentation, we've had some questions and answers, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further conversation before we call the question? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kyle. Cool. All right. Item 6, Pasco County Metropolitan Planning Organization, our Draft Unified Planning Work Program, fiscal years 26-27 through 27-28. Ms. Gorman.
All right, good morning again, Board. I'm here to discuss the UPWP serves as the MPO's 2-year work program and budget, outlining all transportation planning activities conducted using federal and state planning funds. This document identifies the planning studies, technical work, and administrative activities necessary to support transportation planning processes. The work program includes activities related to, but not limited to program administration management, federal and state planning requirements, technical transportation studies, regional coordination, performance and safety measures, and planning initiatives such as freight, safety, corridor, and active transportation plan. Our current overall budget is $2.63 million in federal planning funds, primarily consisting of federal highway planning funds with supporting state funds. As discussed previously, we had an $800,000 deobligation, and that will be moved into the first year to support our planning activities and the staff that we have onboarded because of our exponential growth and all the plans that we're producing, and also our regional merger. We needed that additional staff, which could not be done in our previous agreement. So we're moving that funds to support in this next year. So now we are almost fully staffed. We have 2 positions left, and we are very excited for what the new year brings with this contract. So right now, staff recommends the board to approve the draft Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal 26, for 27 and 28. There will be a public meeting notice that will be posted today after the meeting. It'll go into a 30-day public meeting notice. Then we will come back in April for the official and final adoption of our working budget.
Thank you, Tania. Any questions for Ms. Gorman? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Our next item of business is a conversation regarding the proposed Tampa Bay Regional MPO merger.
Well, right now, we don't have any updates. We do have our upcoming staff directors meeting where we will further discuss, but we're moving into phase 2, like I said before, but there's no notable updates as we are working on the current plan with the consultants, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
what about a
Mr.
future
Mariano.
meeting, sorry, thank you. What about a future meeting with the city?
You mean the Tri-County BOCC?
The Tri-Counties, yes.
We're still working on those dates. As you know, all of the schedules are getting flushed out, and we're coordinating with everyone's admins. So we will have more updates. I think it was trying to be available in March, but I don't think that March date is going to work out. So we're gonna maybe shoot for April, so I will, yes, noted.
Commissioner Starkey.
Just for those of us that are working in that TMA realm, in my meeting with Tanya yesterday, I asked her that if at a future meeting, we could have the head of the airport and the head of the port there, because there's some questions on whether they would think regionally or be at the whim of their, say Hillsborough County board members or city, and so we just want to hear from them that, in my opinion, I think they will think regionally, but there were some questions about that, so I'd like to see if we can have them at our.
And I'm gonna bring that to my next
We're
staff
appointed by
director. I'm
chiefs
sorry.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely, yeah. And a great article that you wrote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I did an op-ed on the regional MPO. It's in the Tampa Bay Business Journal.
Very well,
Thank you.
very well written, very well said.
Absolutely. And I will be discussing the port and airport attendants at our next staff directors meeting. So we will see if we can get them to come to our next TMA meeting to have that conversation.
Thank you very much, Tania. Go Pasco is next on our agenda. Do we have any, oh, excuse me.
I think we skipped.
Before we go on, about the track running and the regional MPO, in my talks with
Yeah.
Secretary Hall with FDOT yesterday, we're always interested in Pasco and 301 to Tampa and all being improved to 4 lanes. Hillsborough County is now on board.
Good.
They want the same thing. So that's a positive thing for the regional group to be discussing, as it takes a lot of money to make that 4 lane all the way down.
I agree, and that's the way I tend to go to Temple Terrace, is 301 from Dade City through Zephyr Hills, down 301, and when you're coming back, especially now with 56 and GPS sending everyone there, by the time, when you hit the county line, it's gonna be stop and start when you're heading north, certain hours of the day, and when that route is just so heavily traveled, it's got to be wide.
And it's very important to hear that Hillsborough's now on board for
That
the
is
same
good.
thing we are.
Yeah.
I mean, more of it's in Hillsborough than Pasco, but we're both interested because it helps both citizens in both counties.
Right.
Also, the fact that, well, we heard yesterday, or Tuesday, that 41 being 4 lane to the north was going to be held up, so that was interesting. But in my talks with the secretary yesterday, I did talk to him about if Highway 52, the 4 lane of that from Bellamy over to 41, was it being held up, or were we going forward, or where we were going to be on it? Because also, we had been asking about the possibility of 6 laning that area from Bellamy over to 41, and the secretary said he was very interested in seeing that possibly happen.
Well,
So that's just good news for.
and I see, we have someone from DOT here. I think we have a rural cross-section on that road on 52. And maybe if we went to our urban, maybe you could fit the 6. Is that how that works?
As the driver for
Then I
Mr.
could get my
Lovett,
sidewalk.
as the driver for Mr. Lovett and getting to these meetings, we wonder when that section's gonna be widened too.
Well, it's
Brian,
late
Mr.
for-
Hunter, good to see you.
Good morning, Board. Brian Hunter with the Florida Department of Transportation. You are correct. We do have a rural section out there. When you move from a rural to an urban, you do typically have to do more drainage improvements. So the cost is, there's not as much cost savings as one would think, and space savings because you can't build over your pipes and all that kind of stuff. I don't know in that particular section. I know that we acquired the right of way for that ultimate 6-lane section. So we won't have to go back for additional right of way funding when we get construction funding somehow to do that 6-lane segment. So that is it's a good, we do utilize that, like County Line Road. We are going to use an urban section so that we can tighten it in and reduce our right of way footprint out there. And so we do use that strategy, but I don't think it's really necessary on 52 since we already have the right of way. We'll continue along the path that we currently have.
Well, I see the backups on Bellamy and 52 coming across.
Hey, Brian, if you
And
would.
they haven't even put the houses in there yet.
Commissioner
Sure.
Martin.
Yeah, so concerns me, if we go to the urban section, you get a lot of it all curb and gutter.
On County Line Road?
Well, let's talk.
Yeah, so 52, urban sections typically have curb and gutter, yes.
And that means you're gonna reduce speed though, correct?
It depends on how the road is designed. Typically, an urban section is slower, so.
Right
As
now,
far
it's
as I
really
pick-
reduced.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, you can get more lanes, but if you gotta cut down the speed 10 miles an hour, what are you really saving net to net?
Yeah,
Having the
more
space
lanes, you're
available.
gonna move traffic across there.
Having the space available is good for when you do want that future expansion, but I'm gonna tell you, when you look at those things coming down, to me, it's not even as safe, but, and that's why you reduce the speed, so it's something to really keep in mind to design it for the 6 lanes, but unless you really, really need it, then you wait. On County Line Road, just so you know, and I think I'm sure you're aware by now, but we have applied, when I was up in DC, met with the Transportation Committee, and we found out there was a grant that was out there that could possibly work, so we had Dominique Holmes from Hernando County, we talked, and our team in like 3 days put the grant together for the build grant.
Awesome.
So we're trying to get 25 million.
We got Bellaracas to sign on, right?
Yeah, Bill O'Reilly's all over it. I think that's why I met with both of us when you were
Yeah.
there too, so.
Yeah.
So that is coming up to get some help. Anyone I've talked to about if you want to talk about what's available now to us, I was not happy with putting all the money out there, but I think if we got 25 million, I hope the DOT would now, instead of loaning us the money, but just give us some money because we do it up front and get it done quicker.
Yeah, so we'd have to look at when that came in and what we could do, but we are always willing to work with you all. That's one of those projects, it's not a state road, but we have a deep desire to help you all get that road as built as soon as possible as well. So we'll definitely be able to look at how we
One
can
more
help.
thought. The way 41 was planned right now for the section, you guys were leaving out from 41 to Secretariat, which goes in front of Pilot Country, et cetera, starts at Pasco Trails. Is that now being put back in?
I do not know the answer to that question. I know we had to, just because of escalating costs, we had to break it into 3 sections, and the unfunded section was Secretariat to 41. I'm not sure if that has changed. I haven't heard that it has, but
That's what
we
I've heard.
got,
It scares me. I mean, that's the section that needs to get done, going that way as well.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, all needs to get done.
Yeah.
It's crazy that we only have 2 roads going east-west and 301 jumped in front of 52, in my opinion. But that's that rural project that got.
And again, if we're gonna talk about those 6 lanes, you better finish the other 2 first. And if you're gonna do in 3 sections, to really try to expand it out, more money goes into the urban section as well, it's something to really take a look at. I mean, I wanna see the whole thing get built, and then you can look at doing expansions.
I wonder if we should have asked for money for 52 when we were, I mean, that's a state road. I don't know.
Yeah.
While
Well,
you're
you know,
there,
An emergency route too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
2-lane road.
Mhm.
Any updates on 54 and 41?
So we're continuing to look at how we can tighten it up and reduce the costs on that one. We do have right of way funded in 28 or 29. I can't remember which year exactly. And so we're still looking at the concept and trying to make it smaller. The smaller the footprint, the less expensive it is to build. And so we're continuing that refining process. And so we should have something wrapped up. I think they presented it to, they had like a community open house. It wasn't like a traditional PD&E open house. We hadn't been out to the community in a while in that area, so we wanted to let them know we hadn't forgot about it. We were still progressing ahead. And we presented some new concepts. We got some comments, and so they're incorporating that into the final concept that we'll end up moving ahead with. And so that should be, I don't know, a couple months from now when we have something to finally say, this is going to be our footprint, this is what it's going to look like, this is where we are with funding, and this is our construction schedule.
As you work to make it as cost-effective as possible, I hope that we build it so we're anticipating future capacity of Fernando County
Absolutely.
growing and coming down,
Yeah.
because they're coming down. Pinellas people left, I think, but I haven't driven down 19 in a bit, but they're going over, which road are they going over?
Either Nebraska or Tampa.
It's not Tampa, it's Curlew?
Okay, Curlew's under construction, and the next one is, yeah.
That was gonna be my question. Which, do you have funding for Tampa yet?
I don't believe we have the next phase of US 19 funded.
I just hope we keep working our way up. I know you guys came to me a number of years ago, and you guys know this, about discussions about a flyover on 54 and maybe 52, or Ridge and 19 and 54. But in my mind, what I said to them was, you gotta do Pinellas first and work up, because the traffic's just it doesn't do any good to go over 54 and then get stopped in Pinellas County. So I'm just hoping you're working your way up.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been working with Pinellas County and the MPO down there to determine what that next phase. We have the plan for the next couple, and then what does it look like north of there? It'll probably be some version of a viaduct like you see on Gandy Boulevard. So it'll be visually, when you're standing on one side of the road, you can see the other. We don't have the grade separations.
Oh, okay,
Those are
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
what we're discussing with them. That's what we're hoping that the community will support, because I know that the Tarpon Springs area
Yeah.
did not want a grade separation because it really cut their community in half. And so we're working
There's ways
get-
to do it so that people will still go into Tarpon Springs to shop. and
Yeah,
everything. I know that's
and-
what they're worried about.
Yeah, so we're working through with all those folks to see if we can come up with a solution that's acceptable to everybody and still provides that regional mobility for people that
That's
live
good, because
everywhere.
that's the way a lot of people from Pasco County who are commuting south, they're coming down.
Yep.
Trinity to East Lake to Tarpon to 19.
Yeah.
So needs to get improved, yeah. I know Hooper's working on that. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. Okay, Go Pasco. Do we have any updates on Go Pasco today?
No, they have no updates. Well, you heard from Nina throughout the presentation, so they already provided their updates.
Good. Under, that was next on the agenda, status reports and presentations, item 8, the freight plan phase 2. Ms. Gorman.
Yes, so the freight planning is an important component of the MPO's transportation planning responsibilities because it supports the efficient movement of goods and services throughout the region. We have a presentation by Rob Kersey coming, and he will review the phase 2 of the freight plan. It builds upon the previous work, which was focusing on identifying key freight corridors and logistical hubs, evaluating freight mobility challenges, developing strategies to improve freight movement and safety, supporting economic development through improved goods, support economic development through improved good movement. And the plan will be developed in coordination, of course, with our current local government, our regional partners, economic development organizations, and freight and logistical stakeholders. At this time, I turn it over to Rob.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Kersey. If you could state your name and title for the record, please, sir.
Good morning. I'm Rob Kersey, Vice President with Alfred Benish and Company. We're a general consultant for the MPO.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
We kicked off this freight plan about a year ago and came before the board and talked about what we were going to do throughout the process. So I'm here today to give you an intermediate update because we're just finishing up our needs plan analysis, update you on that. Per our schedule, we are moving forward to developing and finalizing recommendations and developing an implementation strategy, which will be coming to you before the end of the fiscal year in June. So maybe May is when we're anticipating coming back in about 60 days and asking for your blessing on our plan. Speak to the purpose of the plan. If you'll recall, it's really to identify deficiencies or needs within the primarily roadway infrastructure and how we can address those with operational improvements, capacity improvements, and policy improvements that will support the facilitation of freight and goods movement within Pasco County. The study was broken into 2 phases across fiscal years. Task 1 was really the data collection and analysis portion. Phase 2, we've been working on identifying the needs, and as I stated, moving forward to recommendations and freight implementation. We've been coordinating stakeholder engagement throughout the process. We've had 2 rounds of stakeholder meetings. The first round was really just as we've done with you, introducing the study, and phase 2, which is just wrapping up, is where we met with a lot of the county departments and Tom Ryan of the EDC and interested parties who could provide input to our plan. As part of our needs analysis, we broke it into 2 phases. One was freight activity centers. We took a very large county and said, obviously, we're talking about over-the-road trucks primarily. So where are those trucks generated, where are the trips coming from, and where are they attracted to? On the map here, you see the gold polygons or the freight activity centers, which were a congregation or grouping of freight and industrial generators and industrial land uses. The purple polygons you see are more standalone. You'll notice nicely that most of them are along the state roadways, which are primary movers of freight, so it's great that they're getting that direct access to those major facilities. And the blue balloons with the stars on them are ready sites identified by the Economic Development Council. So those are some locations where that team is trying to promote and draw more industrial development. They align nicely with the freight activity centers and the industrial uses. So by actually getting down to the point-specific locations of where the trucks are coming from and going to, this allows us really to focus our efforts on a smaller portion of the county. Let me at this time state that this is a freight plan, but as you know, Pasco does not have a port. You do not have any rail yards or intermodal rail facilities. You do have customers on some rail lines, but that is usually a destination delivery or picking up of product from those on those rail lines. It is not transferred a truck or something like that that would be hitting your roadway infrastructure. So we are recognizing and acknowledging that there is rail traffic. The biggest impact that it really has, especially with the new spurs and things coming online, would be the impact that it's going to have on your roadway network as far as gate closures and slowing down some of the traffic. So we're taking all that into consideration, especially on the 301 corridor where it's the most active rail line. The rail line in the middle part of the county is primarily serving customers north of Pasco County now that Tibbetts has moved out to Zephyr Hills.
I just want to make a comment. I'll tell you,
Mr. Yeager.
if you go down 52 and you're behind trucks when it's a single lane.
Oh, that happened to me for the board meeting
Yeah.
Tuesday.
It started to happen to me, and I was very thankful they turned, but it really backs up traffic, and there's a lot of trucks going down 52.
Yep, it's mostly those big trucks.
Yeah.
Pulling big things.
That comment is a perfect segue to my next phase of our study. After we identified the point locations, we then took a system-wide approach to say, we're really focusing on trucks and how they operate within the existing system and the impact that general congestion has on the movement of those trucks. And if you're slowing down the trucks or the trucks are using those roadways, they're slowing down the general automobile traffic as well. So we thought, let's take a look at congestion on the network and see how that ties into where we know trucks are. So this Venn diagram here shows that we looked at congestion using the standard measures that are used for most MPO plans, either the congestion management process, the long-range transportation plan, looking at level of service, bottlenecks, volume to capacity ratios from the travel demand model. We then conflated that with the yellow balloon there, which is the presence of trucks. So we wanted to know which facilities carried a large number of trucks, not necessarily on a percentage level, but say a pure volume. You know, are there 500 trucks per day? Are there 1,000 trucks per day on this facility? So really identifying what your high truck facilities were within the county. And then the blue one there is projects. As you've heard, there's a lot of projects taking place right now. FDOT is doing a lot of work. The county's doing a lot of work. So as we identify these freight needs, the idea being if those projects are just going under design, or if we can still get freight-friendly designs and considerations into the development of those, that's what we refer to as the low-hanging fruit. We can accomplish two things. We're getting capacity improvements, but we're also making sure that when we design those facilities, we are acknowledging that trucks are on those roadways, and whether it's an intersection improvement or some type of a capacity improvement that could facilitate the movement of trucks, we're incorporating that.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Mariano.
could you go back to the previous slide? And I was gonna comment, but I decided not to, and I wanted to as soon as you made your comment about the previous one to that one.
Okay?
When you made the comment, like, we're gonna focus on the trucks, not the freight. So as you know, from Brooksville all the way down, that rail line to 41 goes down to Tampa, and not much goes on that all the time. Though they're talking about putting a spur up on 41 to 1. Do you recommend any spurs being added up on that line at all?
Within Pasco County?
Within Pasco, yes.
No, because there are no current customers along that line.
Okay. So let's go to 301. Now, 301, those of you who don't know that line runs, it accesses the rest of the nation. So that's a big line that's gonna always be there. It's got potential. Do you recommend we look at doing anything more there to improve capacity?
Yes, and what is happening there, and I was talking to Tom Ryan before the meeting, is in our meetings with him, he's identified that there are 4 rail spurs that are going to be developed along that line. A couple in Zephyr Hills, a couple up in Lakuchi. And we're gonna map those and consider those, but as new customers come on the line in that area, yes, putting the spurs in place gets them off the main line and allows those trucks to move more freely up and down, and that helps not only the movement of the trains, but also the closure of the gates.
So as well as for our economic development, for the county, for the MPO, what do you recommend we do to try to improve that?
I think working through, Tom's group has been very successful in attracting those customers, and when those customers come in, one of the reasons that they're selecting those locations is because the access to the rail line, and I think it's just should be through his organization, letting those new customers know early on that a rail spur is gonna have to be part of that development, and they're gonna have to coordinate with CSX to make sure that that happens.
That should be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let them deal with the easy stuff, right? Okay?
Thank you, Rob.
So this map shows the congestion that we identified. We put a threshold of volume to capacity of 1.12, looked at level of service that was higher than D, E, or F. So we used also the RITIS database, which shows delay and travel time index, and it identifies bottlenecks within the system. So we put them all on the map here. You see the gold or level of service, that's more on the FDOT roadways because that data is readily available to us. The blue dots are more the county facilities and county roads using data provided by the county traffic operations staff. We identified congestion in those locations. The red circles are crashes involving trucks or heavy vehicles. Once again, verifying where the presence of the trucks are and where they're having some issues, either operationally or conflicts with other vehicles. And green is the bottlenecks that come out as freight bottlenecks out of the RITIS database, which is a national database. So once again, shows us where congestion is in the system. We then wanted to correlate that with where there are a lot of trucks. In reviewing this map, every time I bring it up, I see that it shows that just about every facility, especially state facility, has a high number of trucks. You see we set thresholds there really by facility type and said if it's a principal arterial, if it has more than 2,000 trucks per day, we're going to light it up. If it's a freeway expressway, if it has more than 5,000. When we're working with the data and actually coming up with our recommendations, we're looking at those numbers in a more realistic, hard actual number. As far as mapping here, we maybe should have set our thresholds a little bit higher to maybe not light up quite as much of the network, but it gives you a good indication of exactly, once again, where we're saying this is where the trucks are, and we match that with where the congestion is.
Wait, what's going on, in Gulf Harbors there with that blue dot? I wonder what that is.
Where is that specifically?
It's that funky triangle thing jutting out in the water where I live there.
Oh.
It says-
Furthest west.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Southwest.
that's kind of a funny point there.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that was during realignment after the hurricane. We had a lot of trucks going in, fixing people's homes back up. That could be what that was.
It could be. We'll have to look in that. That is an outlier, and it is
Yeah,
curious that
definitely
it's
an
out
outlier.
there, because let's verify that may be something we remove, but obviously, under normal conditions, that's not an area
Yeah, I
I
think
would expect to
that's
see
hurricane related.
a lot of trucks.
Is that close to your place?
Yeah,
That's our house.
I think it's on my place.
Must be the delivery. Those are my Amazon.
That'd be in front,
It's on my new appliances.
Amazon goes there a lot, yeah, exactly.
You're getting an abnormal number of Amazon deliveries.
Tell Trey about that.
Just slow down your orders.
We always say you can make a difference, and you made a difference on this map.
Just doing my part.
So once we looked at all that information about where the trucks are, where the congestion is, where the crash data is, we brought that all together into this, which is our needs map. And from this needs map, this is where we will be forming our recommendations for improvements there. Bearing in mind that many of these needs are on some of the facilities you've already talked about, State Road 52, US 301, US 19, we heard about it in the earlier presentation. So nothing really illogical here, but it really does point to where we need to be focusing our efforts, because there are trucks there and there are operational issues. And just tracking development through the course of this study, it's been hard for us to keep up over the last year with all the warehouses popping up. That's why I did such a fine grain analysis in tracking exactly where the new industrial developments are going in the warehousing and how they relate to the freight activity centers. We mapped the program improvements. This is, we really wanted to look at, as I mentioned earlier, where is dirt going to be turned on new projects? Where is some type of a design to take place that we could take advantage of and piggyback some freight improvements on? Those would be the easiest to implement and the ones that could be have the most immediate impact. So we mapped everything that is shown here, including the FDOT 5-year work program, your capital improvement program, and lit it all up. This map's all inclusive, so there are some projects on here which really have no relevance to freight. There might be a sidewalk improvement or a trail or a multi-use path, something like that. Obviously, we wouldn't piggyback a freight improvement on that, but I just wanted to demonstrate to you that we looked at all of existing programmed improvements and taking advantage of those when we can. So our recommendations will come, let me start with the right side first, will actually come in two different packages. We'll have the ones that are the infrastructure, operational, and safety improvements that under that first bullet are some of those locations where projects are programmed. So we'll take advantage of those. We'll screen them and see, is there some way we can get on the front end of this design or incorporate some type of improvement before it goes under construction.
I have a question.
Commissioner Yeager.
So, I was talking to some people in the trucking industry, and when we were talking about the roundabouts, they were saying that they're really not wide enough. And then also people who are pulling campers, that was a concern of theirs. So are you going to be making those roundabouts wider?
Not as part of this study and those recommendations, because those are fairly new and come on
Okay, that was just, I wanted to give you
recently.
that feedback, that it was difficult for them. to navigate those.
That is true, and there is a trade-off because those in the trucking industry will say, if you've got a traffic signal there, stopping that truck and restarting it takes time and
No, I just
and
meant
fuel.
when you
No, no,
design the width of
understand.
it a little bit, giving it a little more, just making it a little wider, was all I'm saying.
Yes, yes, freight friendly design. And I will tell you that when we met with the city of Dade City, they'd been watching how one of the roundabouts on 301 had been faring since it had opened. And due to the trucks and other heavy vehicles using that inside apron, they were kind of tracking how quickly it was deteriorating or having issues. To your point that the trucks have to drive on part of that apron if it doesn't have the,
Right.
have the berth to get
Great
around it.
design, just making it wider and more accessible for them.
Commissioner Oakley.
You'll notice some of the roundabouts we have, there's one at 98 at Trilby.
That's it.
That actually.
That's this one.
People say it's too narrow or whatever because on the center part of the roundabout, it's actually made for that truck to ride over that part, so it doesn't have to be as wide, so. But you see that in a lot of roundabouts. In the center,
As long as-
there's nothing that'll stop that truck
have a
from
question.
easing through that center if it goes up over the inside curve to give it more room. So that's the way it's designed, so.
Question.
Commissioner,
What roads are these?
This one is, ooh, and I used to have it on the slide, actually, what that location is.
that's 98 and 575.
Well, how does a pedestrian get across the street here?
Very carefully.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
do
see the
need
Who
flag
designed
for
this
pedestrians.
thing?
Yeah, especially with the Go Pasco, I'd like to talk about, that's not this conversation, I know, but yeah, they're on that southwest corner of that intersection, we've got to have a better access for
Yeah,
those
I
that are
mean-
boarding the bus there.
that's Frogger.
Yeah.
You're gonna.
It's been a rural spot in the past that hasn't
But
had
that's crazy.
sidewalks, but yeah, sidewalks can definitely be in the future, especially just a little bit further to the
If-
south there on 301 where the
If we
sidewalk.
just did
network
this,
has been added.
someone needs to go back to school. I'm sorry, but
This was
that's
the
a
first
death
round,
trap
this
for-
was the first roundabout in East Pasco, and actually it's worked very well because it was a death trap without it. There may be a few fender benders, but nobody's getting killed there anymore, so.
Well, maybe for the people
Yeah.
in a car, but if
we
you're a
do
high
need
school
to have
kid
some-
trying
we-
to go
oh,
visit a
Trust me,
friend.
we do need to have some sidewalks on there.
That's crazy.
That's where I grew up there, and I keep an eye on that too. I still go to church up there, so, yep.
So for clarification, that's the roundabout by St. Leo.
No, that's not. That's 575 and, that's 575 and 98. Yeah, yeah.
So, and it looks to me like if you're on a bike and a car's coming and you have to get off the pavement, you're gonna go down a ditch on the right-hand side. I don't know, I just
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's a very poorly designed intersection, in my unengineered opinion.
So I think that'll be something that gets monitored through this type of freight analysis and activity over time, because we do have so many of these roundabouts that are hitting in Pasco County along the major corridors like US 301, and just how they hold up over time from a construction standpoint, but also how much they relieve delay. And I agree, you definitely need, if you're looking at it as a multimodal corridor for bikes and peds, those issues need to be addressed. So the first bullet is really taking opportunities with projects that are already programmed and seeing if we can interject freight improvements, make sure that they're accounted for in the design. FDOT does a good job of putting all that in whenever they have their corridors improved, because by their very nature, state roads carry a high number of trucks, and they are truck routes. The next is the non-programmed improvements. This is probably what you're gonna see more of the county roads, where we're gonna make recommendations of the secondary freight network and improvements that can be made there. And those projects, because they can't piggyback onto something that's already programmed, either need to be a new project that's identified in the CIP or the TIP in the short term, or if it's a big project, maybe goes into the LRTP, but that's gonna push it back at least, 6 years before it gets into the implementation timeline. Truck parking, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that as part of our study, because truck parking is such an issue. Primarily, you see it on the freeways and the interstates. With the recent improvements to the rest area, north of 56. They did add some truck parking, so it has higher capacity, but you'll still see at certain times that trucks are parked on the shoulder in and out of the location. FDOT at a statewide level is addressing that with putting in new truck parking. We're all hopeful that there may be some private sector solutions that come online as far as new truck stops, new truck parking facilities that will help alleviate some of that. But from an MPO board or local government perspective, most of that is being tackled at the higher level, at the state and federal level, as far as truck parking. On the left side, you see policies and procedures. Probably one of the biggest outputs of this study, in addition to the projects that we're going to identify, are designated freight network. I'm going to show you that next. But coming up with ways to integrate freight review or facility review within your development approval process, and looking at traffic impact studies, making sure that construction logistics plans are part of your larger MPUDs, where you know that a residential development's coming online and it's going to have thousands of new homes. How are those business materials getting moved in there? That's your State Road 52 comment. So many of the trucks there are because they're taking construction materials back and forth. Ultimately, 52's got a lot of building to still take place on it, but ultimately, once those residential developments are built, then you're just down to maintenance trucks, work trucks, Amazon trucks going in there. You don't have the heavy trucks going in there. But as part of the development review process, making sure that trucks have a way to access the site and get in and off the main thoroughfares is very important. This really came from our first round of stakeholder meetings. The folks from the Planning and Development Department said, it'd be to their benefit, this being the first freight plan for Pasco County, if we designated what the freight facilities were, or the freight network in this case. Bearing in mind that this is not what you would see as a typical truck route map or something that would be from a jurisdictional level, truck restrictions, things of that nature. This is really just from a hierarchy of road situation. Where are the trips generated? That's why I've got the freight activity centers on there. How did the trucks get to and from those freight activity centers to the larger hierarchy facilities to get out of Pasco County? So you see the green lines, the lowest level are the freight connectors. Those are within or adjacent to freight activity centers. They're going to be more local roads, county roads, tying into either a secondary or primary freight facility. So the idea is to get those trucks directly off those local roads and to a primary facility as quickly as possible, move them up the hierarchy of the network and get them out of here. To the point that Ms. Spidell made for the TAC meeting that we had last week, she felt like adding more of the Vision Road network or more roadway network would be beneficial here. I understand her point, but I would rebut that by saying in this instance almost less is more. So many of the Vision Road networks is supporting a lot of the new MPUDs or providing what I would call alternatives or cut through traffic for automobiles and motorists. I always throw up the example of Rangeland and State Road 54. Rangeland was a pretty big road on the Vision Road network, but we really don't want to encourage trucks to take that road. We want them to stay on 54. So by adding roads to this, if you get it into your policies, every road you add is a local road you've also got to maintain, and you've got to maintain it to truck design characteristics and materials. So take that into consideration, that if you put more roads on here, that you may be taking on that burden. So TAC's comments were great. We had representatives from several of the county departments and county engineering there, and I told them for this map, what we hope is that they would take the map out of this study, roll it into the comprehensive plan or the land development regs, and the county and the board can add roadways as they want. This is just to start the conversation and identify the primary freight network and something that can be used as a tool by the county when you're making recommendations, and by the MPO as a companion piece. This study will be a feeder for projects that will go into the TIP and the LRTP and the LOP. So this brings freight to a higher elevation because it is becoming so critical to Pasco County, and gets it into the conversation where this is a feeder for the LRTP. Ms. Spidell even said the recommendation from the TAC is that this study would be updated every 5 years, about a year before you go into the LRTP process, just to make sure that freight is considered.
Commissioner Starkey.
A question on County Line Road, that you stop it at 41 and you don't connect it from 41 to 75.
We did not make that connection at that point because most of the freight traffic or freight generation from those freight activity centers on the west side of the county would at that point have the option of either connecting at 41 or Suncoast, rather than traveling that length over to
But if we have
75.
manufacturing, say, going on here in Shady Hills, which is growing, and they go up, and they want to get to 75 to take their products out of Florida up to 75, wouldn't they come across?
There's no road further east from that point.
It stops there?
Yeah,
County
it
line
does.
stops at 41?
It does.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Well, that's crazy.
You can go north and meander back over and down, but we've had several public comment items on that recently.
Oh, is that Ayers?
Yes, that
Oh,
is the
sorry,
air
Richey,
session.
But yeah, that's
I was late,
that's a little that's a little further north and then to the east, yeah.
All right, well,
That's the current configuration of county.
For future consideration, yes, in the long run, building out a network. Yeah, if that roadway exists, it'd be a good option for
yeah, I
freight.
did not know, I didn't know it stopped there.
So where do we go from here? We're gonna finish up our recommendations that are gonna come out of that needs map I showed you. Then we're gonna develop an implementation plan as a planning study, and not a plan such as implementation format. We're really not gonna go too deep into the cost analysis for each of our recommendations. That's more the purview of the LRTP or the TIP, but we're gonna say low, medium, or high cost based upon the specific improvement. Also, we tie that into whether it's short range, medium, or long range. So it'll give you some idea of some of these recommendations from our plan as to how the MPO can take a look relatively dollars, relative time frame of implementation, and how they can prioritize and move some of those into the TIP, the LOP, or the LRTP. And that concludes my presentation. As I said, I'll be coming back in a couple of months and be giving more detail about the specifics of our recommendations and our implementation plan.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions or comments from Mr. Kersey while he's here with us this morning?
You said a great job.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Rob. Our next item, safety performance measures, PM1 update. Ms. Gorman.
Yes, thank you for having me again at the dais. All right. Oh, you switched me, I'm sorry. Switch me over to. I'll be rather quick. I just wanted to follow up from our last meeting where we had a discussion about the PM1 safety measures and the impact it was having on the PM1 projects that are located in the PM1 safety measure. I just wanted to kind of go through a couple quick slides that I had to kind of clarify that discussion we had the last time. So for our 5-year rolling average, I wanted to review that again. This method includes data from the recent 5 years of safety kind of overview on our corridors to produce an annual performance measure. We reduce year-to-year fluctuations in that crash data by having the 5-year rolling average. It provides a clearer long-term trend. Instead of having spikes and dips, we could kind of smooth out that data a little bit. And then it allows for the MPOs to review, year to year in a 5-year configuration, how the safety performance measures are actually occurring. So the fatalities trend that we were looking at from 2020 to 2024, of course, was during our pandemic times. We noticed the traffic volumes decrease, but then we also noticed congestion levels dropped, but then our travel speeds increased, also our serious injury. We were seeing really interesting data there, and we were like, well, it's because of the newer cars that we're having, serious injury, maybe go down. Everything was kind of fluctuating because of our travel times were all impacted by working from home and things of that nature. So here we see that most of the PM measures categories show downward trends over time, but they peaked during 2017 to 2021. Then we had, of course, during the COVID era, like I said, we had a +2% increase in pandemic era travel changes. And so I kind of wanted to move through and kind of look at some key projects. As I was saying, when I met with you all this week on our one-on-ones, I was noticing that US 19 was brought up most of the time with the different projects that were coming into place during discussing how do we improve our safety. And we know that our higher traffic crashes are on US 19. So as you can see here, we started looking at sidewalk construction, safer pedestrian crossing, complete street improvements, and trail connections. And then we kind of go into the multimodal safety. We were looking at the 52 widening, putting in some median separation, access management, and then, of course, again, looking at improvements on US 19 corridor. We have some improvements on US 41 as well, and some raised medians in Holiday. And you could see the year as well, so you can correlate the exact year with the project, so you can see what was happening and what was occurring. And this is kind of where I came in around the pandemic era. This is really my era when I came into the MPO, and we started really heavily looking at how do we make these roads safer. And as you can see, we got some transit ADA stops. We had countywide school beacons come into play. We also had some crosswalks in NPR. We started planning those. And then we started seeing that downward trend in serious injury and fatality. And then the most recent initiatives, of course, are the US 19 ITS safety improvements. We had some Dade City access management that we've done. Of course, Hudson and Newport Richey got some more of the signalized crossings. So you see these initiatives starting to pick up as we move closer and closer to 25 and 26. So the overall impact, we have declined in serious injury rates. We stabilized non-motorized safety trends. Our fatality rate are declining. Of course, I'd like it to decline sooner or quicker, but it is declining, and then it reflects our partnership with FDOT and ourselves and the Pasco MPO.
Do you have a graphic of the fatality rate on the decline?
I can get you one, yes. I can go back to our other presentation. I can show you everything on decline, and I just want to kind of bring that back and have that conversation.
Questions from Ms. Gorman?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tania. Our next meeting will be in Dade City on April the 9th at 10 a.m., Thursday, April 9th, at the old Pasco County Courthouse. Anything for the good of the order while we're meeting as the MPO?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do have something.
Mayor Hoover.
Brian, would you mind coming forward?
Mr. Hunter.
Let's see, Brian come forward. A couple things. Sorry, Jack jumped out, but the underpass, Cody River, just one update on that right-of-way study.
All right, so perfect timing. I actually have something to report, and I'm not telling you I'll be back in a couple months.
Yeah, good.
So I got the 15% line and grade plans, which basically is like location and elevation for the trail. Those came in on Tuesday. I haven't had a chance to look at them. I had the two other MPO board meetings yesterday and this one this morning. So I should have something I can send you maybe like Tuesday of next week.
Perfect.
So that's going to outline that right-of-way need that we have that extends into those parking spots. So
Cool.
I'm happy to stand here and tell you we actually have something for you. Instead, I'll be back in a month.
That's awesome. And the second thing I had, so I noticed there was some work, I'm assuming that DOT was doing that under the bridge. securing some of the bank maybe or whatever, but they borrowed in a lot of boulders under where we were anticipating to have that underpass. And so it's like, if we were ever gonna do an underpass, we're gonna have to call out all that boulder now. It didn't make any sense why they filled that in like that, so.
All right, yeah, I'll take a look at that. I know our bridge folks have been involved in our conversation because we are gonna have to do like micro piles under that bridge, and so they know it's coming, so I'm sure that they have,
I wouldn't classify them
factored.
as micro piles. They're, they're very high and they're big boulders.
Yeah,
So I'm kinda shocked to see how much they filled in.
I'll talk to them, see if they're aware of everything going on, so I'm sure they've accounted for it. And, you know, it may just be some shoreline protection need that they have right now that the longer term project will take care of as well. So, but yeah, I'll follow up with it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Anything else for Mr. Hunter or anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? Hearing none, thanks a lot, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.
Right. See you, sir.
What's that? Yes.
Let's don't say quite like that now, Roddy.
You're not looking to haul a bunch of rock out of it. You see that?
I always get excited when they getting older, they still ask for an autograph.
T-Bud.
You like the blue ink better?
Get a VRBO like I did.